for the zoning law that has not actually been introduced yet, or the public hearing actually set for yet.
We are going live. Okay. I will call to order this regular monthly meeting, September meeting of the Village of Trumansburg Board of Trustees. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
I knew this under my report, but I would like to do by resolution a price per kilowatt for the charging stations.
Exciting. Let's do that under old business. Okay. And I have an addition, which I will do under my report. We have to approve the deer management program for another year. 'Tis the season already.
Feels it.
It does. Not sure if I'm a big fan of that, but
I'm in heaven. This is my one.
no controlling that.
It's very nice. Busted out the tea this afternoon. It's very good.
Just love it.
Okay, if there's no other changes to the agenda, we'll move to our consent agendas, which includes our meeting minutes from August the 11th and our abstracts. General fund abstract totaling $261,706.44. Water fund abstract totaling $64,950.70. Sewer fund abstract totaling $26,425.39. And the EMS billing abstract totaling $1,516.56. Would someone like to move the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
And a second. Any comments, questions, or need to pull anything from the consent agenda? Do we need to pause or should we?
No.
Hearing no other comment, then if. Note to self. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Item number 4 is our first public comment period. Seeing no members of the public present in person or online, we'll move to number 5, which is our reports from representatives. Unfortunately, we don't have any representatives present at the moment in person or online, so we'll move to item number 6. Under board reports, a couple of items from my end. First, I want to acknowledge that this is the final week of part-time employment for Tom Myers as our now longstanding code enforcement officer. He officially retired in the eyes of New York State earlier this summer, but has been working part-time for us as we have hired and now trained his replacement. And he has indicated that this will be his last week in the office. So Tom, if you hear this, thank you so much for all your years of work and all your dedicated efforts on behalf of the village. And if we see him out and about, I'm sure we'll all get an opportunity to thank him. As per usual, did we schedule? We have not scheduled any public hearing related.
Correct.
Do we then have need of our second meeting this month?
I will likely not be able to make it if we haven't.
I think we're too
That
close.
would be good.
We're too close, probably, given the interest to have a public hearing on anything we introduce.
Yeah, I think we were,
2 weeks.
I think we're kind of aiming for our first October meeting.
Okay,
Anything that we know of pressing that needs to be.
Other thing, and I also will. Well. I'm right on the cusp. Yeah.
So then let's just go ahead and notice the cancellation of our regularly scheduled second meeting. At least for this month.
that puts us at October 20th.
That's right, because we moved our. That isn't an issue at all from a bill paying standpoint, is it? Okay. I'm fine with that. We need. Hopefully, we won't need to have an emergency meeting for something, but if we did, then we would have time in between.
Okay.
Okay. And then the last item, which was added to the Dropbox, it's boilerplate from last year, but it is September. Normally, we try to get these items approved in August, but it escaped my attention. So we have to approve. We have before us to approve, nothing forces us to approve it. The Trumansburg Village of Trumansburg Deer Management Program for 2025-2026. All of the terms and conditions are the same as in previous years. This resolution to approve it would be approving the document in the Dropbox, which just outlines how the operation is constructed and overseen. It would run from this month, technically the 1st, through March 31st of 2026. Same properties, mostly the same properties. There may be an addition, but mostly the same properties in the village, mostly the same participants. It's been very successful. I had another request, although I haven't heard from them. I had a request through DEC from a municipality elsewhere who would like to speak with us about it because they're trying to stand up something similar. This is the 3rd or 4th time in the last few years that that's happened. So we've become something of a model municipal exercise. The DEC is constantly telling people, go talk to the village of Trumansburg if you want to know what to do correctly, I guess. So, certainly happy to entertain any questions, but I would entertain a motion to approve the Village of Trumansburg Deer Management Program for another year, effective retroactively to September 1st, concluding March 31st of 2026. So moved.
Second?
Comments or questions? Feels like deja vu. There's a bad joke in there about groundhogs and deer, but it's similar every year. The number of deer taken last year was lower than, I think maybe the lowest year we've had in 2017. So that's either an indication of participation possibly flagging a little bit, or also population decline, or it's just an
Or both, right? I mean, it's like a negative reinforcement loop for sure. Like success of the program leads to fewer deer, leads to less interest from participants, leads to, there'll always be an ebb and flow.
Yeah. Other comments or questions? Hearing none, then all in favor of approving the Trumansburg Deer Management Program for another year, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that's it for me. On to fire, Marcia.
Last month we had 31 total calls, 3 out of district, town of Covert 6, town of Ulysses 15, and the village 7. They did mention at the meeting that never before has this happened in the history of them directing traffic for the parade. People totally going around them, avoiding signs, avoiding detours with the big orange. People just didn't care. Like they just didn't care. They had the worst trouble they've ever had, they said. So there was a big trouble with traffic, so they're gonna see what they can do to counter that better next year, because people just don't care.
Saw someone tear down Main Street to pull into their driveway like a car's length ahead of the parade coming at them. What are you doing?
But it was just crazy, I guess, from what they said. The Letters to Santa program is starting, they're starting that up. So, they approved purchases for that. There's gonna be a 9/11 March Walk, Memoriam Walk in Ovid, September 30th at 7 o'clock. This is also Fire Prevention Month coming up in October. And pretty much that's all they had for the month. Still have 43 active members, still looking for more, always. And that's it.
Okay. EMS Youth Street Tree Advisor.
So start with the EMS calls, 13 in the town of Covert, 1 in Enfield, 8 in Hector, 5 in the village of Interlake, and 2 in the city of Ithaca, 2 in Lodi, 8 in Mecklenburg, 1 in Ovid, 1 in Romulus, 19 in the village of Trumansburg, and 40 in the town of Ulysses.
Busy.
You've all seen, actually, I forgot to look, is the EMS budget for our meeting this week, was that on the agenda separately?
Not on-
No, not on the license agenda separately.
So as you all know, this is our annual opportunity to go meet with the towns, look over the budgets. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer them. I think the budget honestly is fairly straightforward this year. There's not really any surprises, but certainly happy to ask questions if there are any. I believe there was the final an 8% increase over last year, or 7.6 or something.
I took printed copies, but the final version came to 8.6, but rather.
8.6, oh, okay, I was close, yeah. So I think, given the sort of trends that we're fighting in healthcare more broadly, that's a pretty substantial victory, even though it feels kind of hollow, because almost 9% is almost 9%. But we'll see how it goes. Of course, it's always an interesting meeting to set the contract amounts with the town, but in advance of that, anyone has questions, feel free to reach out. It's kind of all of us sitting on the hot seat, so this is better. If you see anything, to flag, certainly would prefer to make any edits if we do see them as a board before we walk into that meeting. I do also want to say, I'm sorry that came out later. I was targeting a week before it actually came out. That is just me. I was sick and in the hospital. It was a whole thing. But that said, the youth commission met. We generally take the summer off and then come back, because the youth commission is also on the town's fiscal schedule. So we come back from summer recess, call it, and do our budget. We did that budget. Looks like we're projecting about a 3% increase. So for us, when we get to our budget, that will be kind of a non-event. That is pretty standard. We had a slightly larger increase last year, but that thankfully was kind of a one-off. I think that is really all the updates I have. The one other thing is that there is, in the Dropbox, there's a permissive referendum and maybe this is under, Jess, is this under you?
No, it's. If you were,
Yeah.
Joel had connected to ask you about it, so just prepped it. So you wanted that,
Thank you.
it's med safe spend.
Yeah, and this is actually an expenditure that I had approved, but Joel wants it to come out of the reserve, so we need a permissive referendum. So with that in mind, I'm gonna pull it up. I will move that we spend up to, well, I'll say exactly $4,271 from the EMS equipment reserve for Knox box and Knox keys. Subject to permissive reference.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? None. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstentions. Okay.
But that's it. That's all I have until we get to old business.
And can I ask a question, does that mean that we have to have that review before we see about the?
Yes, that will be coming up. I think we'll wait until they get through their budget, because it's a reconciliation.
Yeah.
So we don't want to step on their toes when they're like, right.
Okay.
DPW, water sewer, CPZR, and farmers market.
Yes, so a couple of things, and I did just actually notice, my apologies, not noticing this earlier, there is one other item to add around a screening plant. Not a plant screening, the other way around. But I'll just take it as we go in order. So sidewalk planning, the conversation here is that we have addressed all of the like obvious no-brainer, we should absolutely improve or add sidewalk here in the village. And now the DPW is kind of mulling over, where do we take this next? There's a desire to continue to invest in sidewalk, and also unclear exactly where the best place to focus is. So I wanted to do one of two things. We can, if anyone has off the top of their head ideas of, hey, we should think about this place, the other place, happy to hear them now. The other thought is, if there's someone who feels particularly passionate about this, might make sense to have a sit down with Dusty and maybe Clint at some point and try and just work through, how do we want to think about how we focus that time and attention and energy? Ben and I had done a little bit of this a year or maybe two almost ago. Maybe it was longer. But I think part of why it didn't really hold in my mind is I think we knew kind of the next two or three things to do. So we just kind of went ahead to them, and now we're at a spot where it's a little less clear. The DPW had identified initially the stretch of Elm, kind of across the street from 1416 Elm. But then that homeowner just put in some lovely, nice new plantings right where they'd have to kind of get involved. And so now that seems less interesting in the near term. So there's just a kind of a question of where we take this. I think some of the guiding things I've thought about in the past, and I know Ben and I at least have talked about, is not wanting to stay away from this sense of like, there should be sidewalk everywhere. Because I think that's way too expensive, both from like a maintenance and from just creation sort of standpoint. So wanting to kind of think about, where does it really make sense for sidewalks versus where does it actually make sense to make the street more of a multi-purpose street, and therefore require people to slow down, to pay more attention, that it's not on its face a detraction if someone is walking the road, that in fact we have people walking the road all over the village, and that might be something that is fine, if not encouraged in many places, especially on some of the smaller side roads. Because that helps reduce speed of traffic, and it kind of creates this more mixed use of the roadway. So that's kind of the framing in my mind. I really haven't looked more deeply than this about where I think we would go. But yeah, I think with that, I'll just kind of open it up to see if people have thoughts or ideas of where.
I am super passionate about the area between the bed and breakfast and Juniper Manor, that slate
Mhm.
sidewalk in there. Last Saturday, I picked up an elderly lady that was walking in the road with a cane. She was on her way to St. James. There was not a safe place for her to walk, so I pulled over and gave her a ride. But these elderly people that have the push walkers, sometimes they have a little dog with them. I get so worried about them tripping up on that old slate sidewalk.
Yeah.
And it just seems to make sense to me that since they're coming, some of them going to the center of town or coming from the center of town, that from Juniper Manor there until, the new sidewalks that were just put in, that we should connect that area for safer walking for people. There's always people walking in the road in that section for that very reason. Very hard to push a baby stroller or baby buggy down that sidewalk as well. So I hate to see our older people in the road like that.
No, I mean, that makes a ton of sense with just the density of people there and the age of the residents there. That makes a lot of sense to help them out for sure.
Somewhat tangentially or ironically. If 14 and 16 Elm become part of the downtown commercial district, those sidewalks will automatically become part of the sidewalk district.
So I'm looking quickly. It looks like it's concrete. Or no, oh, that I see what that's slate. Yeah, it's slate there.
Yeah, it's all slate from
Yeah,
their driveway on up to Juniper Manor. It's all
Right.
slate.
yep. No, you're right. Yeah. It's hard to actually tell on Google a little bit, just the way the shadows are. It kind of looks concrete, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
I think my suggestion is prioritize maintenance. I think like they did the bricks on Main Street. I think it sounded like that was hellish. So we need like a longer term solution for that, because the idea of building when we can't yet maintain the core of what we already have, to me, is really counterproductive. I would much rather. I mean, the layout of the Main Street project was such that like those dips when bricks sag is meaningful, and not just meaningful in terms of like the intensity of the sag, but meaningful because of the design, right? So it cuts right through every pedestrian path. So I mean, if you imagine a walker going down that path, or anyone with any kind of mobility issues, the idea that like you all of a sudden be like slightly lower on one side, that's really hard. I think for me, it's less about building and more about maintenance.
Would that also include like maintenance of other sidewalks that are not Main Street? So for instance, the sidewalk on Washington, which is very. Like the levels are.
But what I'm saying is just the concrete, like the new sidewalks that are not new anymore. We should first establish a protocol to make sure that those keep working. I wouldn't consider, I think that is outside of our. Like Washington is
Outside of the sidewalk district.
It's definitely outside of the sidewalk district, but it's also outside of, like, we've done some of the improvements that are outside of the district. True. And I guess to me, I like sort of subconsciously have included them in the sidewalk district maybe. But I think that would be my priority, would be maintenance.
So the maintenance piece is interesting because we're required, so the sidewalk district proper is everything that was paid for with the 3 different grants that occurred over 12 or 13 years. So, and it's going to include West Main. So effectively, once the West Main sidewalk is done, let's call it spring of 27. The village will be responsible for sidewalks on Seneca Road from Compass to the intersection of West Main, all the way down Main Street, through the downtown core, all the way to the Suresay, and the stretch of South Street to Tamarack, and the stretch of Lake Street down to the bridge. That's all part of the grant or grants. And one of the stipulations of the grant funding is that the village has to maintain it. And we've always said, sure, that means we'll plow it, but they really mean maintain it. I think as a separate issue from do we add sidewalk anywhere else is the need to make sure that we have some type of a well-planned program among DPW, even if it means hiring that elusive 5th person that we talk about. Because, we've joked about hiring the 5th person, for plowing, but it's actually a lot bigger than that. There needs to be a sidewalk every spring. Someone from our DPW, not a contractor, should be out there checking for heaves and bumps and trip edges. Not from a liability standpoint, but from an obligation standpoint because of the funding. And then add it to the summer list of items that need to be fixed. The bricks. Someday there may not be bricks where there are bricks now, right?
Mhm.
I
Someday.
think that's what I'm getting at.
Might need to be
Yeah.
concrete. You know, the brick field layouts were designed to be visually attractive and cut through the pedestrian walkway so that people could see the names. I mean, so it's a feature, not a glitch, that they're in the way. But that'll be, they spend a lot of time and energy fixing the bricks. Maybe the next time they heave, we'll just dig them up.
Well, that's not the only field that's in need of some attention too.
Well, and the slates are in need of attention. There's still a metal plate on it. I think there's a lot of like, I think the only place I would disagree is that I don't see it as separate from building. I'd rather at least get a clear picture of what it takes for us, if it's possible for us, and what that budget looks like, what that capacity requirements are before we sort of go pay mortal. I think to me, the worst case is we end up with acres of concrete that we can't maintain. And then we're in sort of a similar position in 20 years where, you know, right now we have these slates that are like, oh, this doesn't really work. And to me, that creates more of a problem than a solution. Like that's just a dangerous sidewalk, which Ben's point, like I'd rather have people walk on the road than walk on a dangerous sidewalk.
So where I was getting to the Washington was that there is a big, large number of traffic that goes. It's just a lot, it just has become a walking path where people go up Union Street, over McClellan, and then up Washington. Sometimes you just see these big groups that are not using the sidewalks because of all of this uneven leveling or just non-maintenance of overgrowth or
When they're dodging Bradley, right, because of the traffic speed. They're probably in Congress, probably too,
right.
both because those are thoroughfares.
So I would say just high volume areas in general.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I did just pull up the walkability study, which is now 2007
years old.
20 years old.
Almost 20 years. Good lord.
Oh,
But the takeaway that I'm having, there was top
where
five,
does the time go?
right?
It just goes so fast.
If we look at the top five the top three priority projects, we've largely completed them. Safe Routes to School program, they call out Wig and Lake Street, extending Main Street from actually, I don't understand. I'd have to look at that one. I don't understand that, but improving Elm Street down here, like we've kind of hit some of the high notes here. And I think especially with, you know, the new stretch coming online in the next few years, this idea of how do we build a maintenance plan and attack that seems very pressing. I like the idea of the Juniper one. I think that's the other one that's like a particularly unique situation. And then I think there's this broader question that you're bringing up, Joanna, of like, what is our cohesive thought on some of these, on Penn, on Washington? I think I understand the concern, and I also find myself thinking there's only so many places we can put sidewalk and manage it. And I think finding a way to make those streets, continue to make those streets slower, narrower, make people more aware of what's going on there, that might be the better solution in some of those. So that's kind of where my head's at. I don't know if we need like a sidewalk plan to actually be written per se, but I think at least that gives me guidance to get back to DPW, and we will always continue to talk sidewalks, I'm sure. That is always sidewalks and street trees are what everyone talks about all the time, and taxes.
Well, I mean, if you think about any artery that comes off of Main Street. I think, is there an exception? I think every single street that comes off of Main Street has some sidewalk for some distance.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That somehow inherently makes sense.
Yeah, that first block
Yeah,
kind of, that also rhymes a little bit with this Elm Street conversation in general, is the sense of like. Kind of that first block off of Main Street is kind of a transition space.
right.
And it makes sense to be focused there, and then, yeah, maybe you get further away. That doesn't
Right.
make as much sense.
But then does Seneca Street or the short stretch of Penn Ave between Halsey and Pease, do they need sidewalk? I mean, it's kind of like,
Yeah. And where would you put it?
right,
Right, well, it gets trickier on some.
It's ditches like
Right.
on either side of those.
Right, at least with Washington, if there was one, you could put it back in. But
Right.
With Penn, there's.
No, there's nothing.
well, the Seneca and that short strip of Pennsylvania, Penn Ave also have a lot of water issues. When it
Yes, they
rains.
do.
That's why they need the ditches. Wouldn't want to fill those to put sidewalk in.
No, that would be counterproductive.
I think if I'm reading number 2 again, it's basically saying that extra stretch of sidewalk that we're working on was the number 2 call out, so. All right, I think I have what I needed out of that, so appreciate that. Then let's see, going back to our agenda, where do we have next? Friends of the Market nonprofit. So this is just kind of an update on the continuing conversations with the farmers market on how we'd like to see that structured over the long haul. They are actually interested in spinning up a Friends of the Market nonprofit, targeting kind of the time between when this market closes in the next 2 months and then before the next start of the market, so that take their kind of time off to focus on how that works. Guess they've got someone on the board who's already spinning up a nonprofit for some other purpose, so there's a little bit of familiarity on the board. I had said we were happy to help in ways if we can. It's a little bit dicey to help them set up a nonprofit, like the, don't know how that would actually work, but I said we'd lend whatever support we could to them working on that. The thing to ask here maybe is just, actually, let me see, that part that I'm taking on is kind of trying to codify a little bit more of, okay, that exists. We've still got a village market. There's probably a couple people on a committee that help that run. How do all these things kind of fit together? So trying to document a little bit more of that guidance for them. I've written up a draft and have them taking a look at it for like what that actually looks like. But I think that the key point in my mind is making that village committee feel more like a regular village committee. Right now, it has always felt a little bit in two worlds because it used to be a village, market board that then kind of came into the village, and they've always had a president and a treasurer and a secretary, which is an odd structure for a village committee. So trying to kind of simplify that and say, you're a committee, you propose things to the village board. The village board actually makes decisions, simplifying it that way. So I think we're in a good spot there. If there's any other details to bring to this board, I'll bring them back up, but I think I'm optimistic about where we go. And, you know, obviously I think it'll depend on them actually kicking up this nonprofit and figuring some of it out. There'll be some growing pains, I'm sure, as we kind of split out, tease out some of these roles and responsibilities, but I think it could work out pretty well. So we'll see where it goes.
Sounds like good news.
Yeah, no, it's nice. That's kind of where the idea where it started was to kind of actually have both. They were a little overwhelmed initially by that idea of having two things, but I think they've come around to the benefit of having both. I think it gives them a little more say in both sides of it, which I think they're appreciative of. So as long as we kind of make the roles and responsibilities work out well, I think it makes sense. All right, manhole relining. I think this was a late add actually to the Dropbox, but there is a quote in the Dropbox under 60 III for relining manholes. So this is a program that we have now undertaken annually. We're kind of identifying the manholes and risers that are in most need of repair, largely from an I&I perspective. So stormwater getting into the sanitary sewer, which we want to avoid. This is a quote for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 manholes. This is from a state bid source, so we don't need multiple quotes. And I had summed up this amount, which was just north of 20,000. I can read out the exact number. So I would like to propose we accept this quote for repairing manholes. And and lining those manholes for a total of $20,252.64.
Second, but that is not the number.
That's not the number. Did I add it up wrong?
It was very close. $21,959.34 is the
Let's see.
thing, is it?
Oh.
Oh, wait, am I just looking at the wrong thing? Never mind. I'm sorry.
All right,
I have the wrong thing.
this is the Precision Group quote. I don't know, yeah.
Yep, no, sorry, I had the wrong thing.
Okay.
Never mind.
What was your question, Jess?
This will be the last of the storm sewer big expenditures this year, because I wanted to double check, I can't get into my computer, I think it's like 30,000.
I believe. So the two big ones would be this and then the MRB's planning work. And I think they've built that. I
Okay.
think I saw that come through. So we're doing that annually, every year, we're doing a chunk of that work and then this work.
Other comments or questions? Just to say that having recently done this work myself, the numbers are right. At least the ballpark. No.
For what it's worth, the DPW had to crack open one of these. I don't remember what the purpose was. They popped it open and it was bright orange gleaming back at them. And it was one of the first ones we'd done. Still look great. They're supposed to be good for like 100 years, so I should hope they still look great after 2 or 3 or whatever it's been, but. I think we can claim at least some of the improvement down at the sewer plant from doing this, which is helpful. Some of the pictures of some of these manholes is just, there's not really much there anymore.
Like that.
It's kind of a manhole cover with like a couple pieces of metal still holding it up somehow, it's just, they've been eaten away and cut into, so.
Yeah, no, this is good. All right, if there are no additional comments or questions, all in favor of accepting this quote from the Precision Group for 6 manhole relinings, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
All right, then on to striping Halsey Street. So this is, we actually just posted this today. We had talked about this a couple different times. The idea being Halsey Street is one of these kind of thoroughfares where people zoom down it trying to get from A to B. Largely, I think the school is a big part of that.
Huge.
And so one approach, cost-effective approach is to make the roadway narrower by striping a shoulder on it so that people feel a little tighter, they want to go a little slower. This is certainly a well-trodden practice, but I kind of just assume it's going to work and paint it and move on. So we're doing this as kind of an experiment. That was the point on the website.
That's why it's called an experiment.
Exactly.
To see if it works. It may not.
Right, so we have plenty of speed data prior to this. We'll capture speed data after this. We'll put up a sign that shows there's people in the roadway, be aware, and then also put the striping on and see what we can do. So the DPW is going to kind of slapdash a couple things together to paint that line initially, which I think again goes with this idea of experiment. If we like it, if we want to keep doing it, if we want to keep doing it on other streets, I think there'll be some conversation of do we have the right equipment and so forth. But they can kind of put something together just for now. And so I think they're aiming in the next couple of weeks to do that, put up the sign. And then we
See if
kind
it
of
works.
take
The
some-
most effective deterrent we had was when my neighbor put in their sewer line and there was a huge divot in the road.
Oh, great.
And people slowed down greatly. We
Yeah.
were so sad when they had to repair it and put it back to normal.
Yeah. That was definitely rough. So yeah, I don't know if you've talked to Chief at all about this, but just, probably, I don't know, in October, November, if we can look at some of the data, whatever months, ideally, whatever we have the same data for last year or the year prior or something, we could kind of do a year to year kind of comparison would be fantastic.
Is the striping parallel end of the asphalt? It's like a thin thing like on Trinity Street.
Yeah,
Sort of like a sidewalk.
yes, yeah, and so, and especially, yes, and we also talked about, do we make kind of two shoulders or one? Again, for the experiment, we figured one line's easier than two, so we're just gonna do one. It'll kind of look like Truman, where there'll be potentially 4 or 5 feet on the side that could look kind of like a walking path even, and so people could bike or walk on it. It's probably not technically quite wide enough to really be considered a walking path, but that is also another thing that would be interesting to just hear back from people if they have any opinion on. Did they like that? Did they end up using it? Should we actually just center the road and have two shoulders, or is it nice to have kind of a one larger shoulder that's almost like a little sidewalk of sorts over there? Wow.
Hey.
We'll see.
I can sit my husband out on the front porch, who hollers at people daily, and I'm sure he can give you a good account.
There you go. I'll collect.
Yeah, oh,
That.
I love that.
Yeah. Ask him to start now.
We don't really need a radar gun because we can see the speed sign from our porch and from my kitchen window.
Yeah.
Need and want.
So that's
different
what-
thing.
So that's when it.
I still want it.
All right, last thing, thanks you everyone for bearing with me. We have 2 quotes in the Dropbox for a screening plant, not a plant screening. Screening plant is a piece of equipment that allows you to dump a bunch of dirt in it and it sifts out the big things from the small things. That's basically it. The reason that the DPW is interested in this is twofold. One is, I mean, the value of it, what we would get out of it is we've got a bunch of this stuff that whenever they scrape off the top of asphalt to repave, whenever they dig out a ditch to repair something or another, we have a bunch of this dirt. It's not particularly useful all mixed together the way that it is, but if we could screen it out, there's a lot of good topsoil in there we can make use of. Potentially we could sell it. At the very least, we wouldn't have to buy as much if we need it in the house. There's a lot of good uses for it. They've also been given approval from our contact at the state for CHIPS funding to use it towards this. So this will be something that we get paid back through from state funding. So they've been keeping an eye out for this equipment and got a lead on the Caesars equipment quote from up in Rome, New York. Small local shop that builds this all in-house, start to finish, swears by it, says they've like never had a problem in the 10 years they've been building them. The one time they had a problem, they shipped the company like a whole new one and just asked them to send back the old one because they wanted to figure out what went wrong with it. Like that level of kind of persnicketyness and pride in their work, which is great. And it's also $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 less than the other quote. So they're very excited to get their hands on this. And start making better use
Well,
of.
the screened compost they did this year was like liquid gold. It
Okay.
was amazing stuff.
Right, yeah, you can use it.
Didn't have chunks of stuff in it. It was just beautiful.
Use it for the compost. You can do, yeah, there's a number of good uses they think they can make out of this, so. So with all that preamble, I would move that we accept the quote from Caesar's Equipment for a screening plant for $14,995.
Second.
Where will this be coming from?
This is coming from, oh boy, I had that and then I thought I wrote it down and I don't see it. Let me see if I can real quick in my email. Because I did ask that of Clint. Should come out of street maintenance contractual is what he suggested.
There's street maintenance contractual.
He said A5110.4.
So, as of the close of August, which is not necessarily included the abstract, you just said there's 8,900.
That's not enough money. I had suggested to him that it come out of chips because we're gonna then pay back from chips. So I'm okay to say we take it out of street maintenance chips instead of contractual.
That would make sense.
Right.
To me.
And I can pass that back to them so they're aware.
As long as it's not coming out of reserve, but we need a referendum for it.
Yeah, no, I don't, that was not complained.
Okay.
All right, I'll let them know that that came to that.
Are we confirming that or you?
Let's take it out of that,
Okay.
and then I can let them know that's what we did, and then they can figure out what they want to do without that.
Other comments or questions? Hearing none, then all in favor of approving the quote from Caesar's Equipment for a screening plan for $14,995, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
All right, and then with that, I think I am done.
Okay, police, Joanna.
So for. So for the month of August, there were 366 calls. 2 calls were for services outside of the village and within Ulysses. Distance to Tompkins County Sheriff. For a. Shots fired and a suspicious incident. Then after that, there were 3 theft investigations. 1 dispute, 4 harassments, 1 trespassing. 2 vehicle crash investigations. Non-criminal, there were 151 property checks. 141 vehicle stops. Of those 88 were ticketed. As far as events, they did participate in the Trumansburg Fireman's Day Parade. And Chief Nelson will be assisting later on this week in the crop walk. There was not a whole lot of actions. There was some assistance because school started Thursday and Friday. There was some assistance on the roads that were leading up to the school for students and parents that were walking. And also a reminder to people to slow down. Our school speed limit is 20 miles per hour. So people should be slowing down to 20 miles per hour. There was I guess a concern for students that were crossing the newer neighborhood into. What is that road? Where the historic.
Schoolhouse Road,
is.
Schoolhouse Road.
So the chief has been helping those students get across the road safely and also making sure that cars slow down. And he did ask, because that part of the property is part of Trumansburg Central School District, he did ask the superintendent whether they were interested in having a crossing guard in that space. because there are students, several students that cross that road. So we have not heard that.
It's a village street. Do we want to put a crosswalk from,
So there is painted crosswalk there.
across South Street? I'm thinking of across South Street, not across Schoolhouse.
That's what so across South Street.
I think there is a walk there.
There is process. but-
That's what I asked you, no. Yes.
Yes, because that would go from sidewalk to sidewalk because there's sidewalk in front of the Historical Society and there's new sidewalk right in front of the development there.
So there is a painted area where people should be crossing.
But not across school, has me.
Yes, so students have to walk down and then cross, yes.
But they're going down the lane and running into other traffic and
So where are they crossing?
he wants them to stay.
They're crossing-
They're going down Schoolhouse Lane, right? And not staying on the sidewalk and going down South Street to Wake.
They're crossing as soon as they get out of the neighborhood.
Oh, I see.
Mhm.
So he's asking that kids and families come down and cross over where there's a crosswalk.
I was saying jump within Schoolhouse Lane, they're actually walking down Schoolhouse Lane.
Yeah, they do.
And then he was upset about that.
They do, from my understanding is that that is part of the school district's, what's it called, their plan for, they are planning to have a sidewalk down Schoolhouse Lane. For their next, project, yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but that is a concern for him, that the students cross safely.
I didn't realize they were crossing it.
That's.
Straight there where Pheasant Way is, they're just.
Straight across the Crescent. Seems so odd. You're right there, but it's.
East Crescent Way.
There isn't a sidewalk across from there, is there? They're just
No.
walking. in
No,
the
they're just
Yeah,
walking
yards.
down the bus line.
They're kids. They'll go the most convenient way.
Oh, when I was in school, you know, the little house next to it, just before you get to Schoolhouse Lane, that they used to have a path in their yard that went straight to the middle school. So we used to walk and go up their side yard and to the middle school.
Oh, wow.
Those were
It's
a
nice of
friend of
them.
mine lived there.
Mhm.
Probably the same path. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, there was conversation about kind of connecting the walking path in not Compass, in Crescent Way. Maybe to kind of that thing or
The
something.
school had reached out to NHS about how that path was put in. And I think was considering doing it exactly that, right? Continuing it so that there could be a through the roadway,
Right.
but I don't know where that went.
Okay.
And then from a previous conversation that we had last month. Adding a crossing guard for the farmer's market, so we did have a person which is where, Chief Nelson actually brought this up from is, to actually be a crossing guard, so. There is no one at this time at the farmer's market. But we were looking to have a crossing guard for that area from now until the end of this market season. And it would be for 3 hours every Wednesday, and I think there's 7 weeks left. So I did forward on the information for the crossing guard, that Chief Nelson interviewed. Who has a lot of experience, so would be able to handle the traffic. From both directions very well.
Great.
Main Street compactor. So I am asking for approval of that crossing guard. for the rest of the farmers market season.
Okay. So do you want to make a motion to hire her?
I will make a motion to hire. Wayne to say the name and.
Yep, we'll be hiring, so then I would entertain a motion then to hire Lorraine Husby as a crossing guard of the Village of Trumansburg Police Department at the rate of $26 an hour effective immediately, if you'd like to move that. Wait a second. Second. Comments or questions? Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you. So with that, Chief Nelson will also be posting signs for people to slow down, especially those 18-wheelers that come and want to sell. Just to make sure that we are covering that area. Let's see, anything else? Flexible, it was under 5,000. Okay, the threshold, thank you for that. Yep. Just real briefly, discussion from last week or last month.
So sorry. You had said the 5,000 and I wanted to make sure because I just looked it up again because I never remember it. Oh, sorry. You're right. You can approve it.
Yes.
Commissioner can. Sorry. Yes, we're good. See, this is why I have to look at it every time.
So I brought up the tickets. I just wanted to update trustees on the ticket amounts. I said $25 is too low, but in reality, which kind of makes sense from the revenue that we're getting. So most tickets that are issued within the village are not set by our own local law.
Right.
The only thing that is set are those particular very specific things that we have in our local law, which is the all four wheels have to be parked in the areas, which are $25. But in reality, the court sets the amount from $0 to $150. So we get whatever they determine is the right amount. Plus there's a $25 surcharge for the payment of that. And as court fees. So as far as how many tickets, no tickets have been dismissed or but there's no actual way that we can tell how much revenue we're actually getting because some people just don't pay tickets and there's no enforcement. So people paying their tickets.
Well, then. Seems typical.
So I just wanted to update you guys on that, just because I brought it up last time. And that's all I really have for now.
Okay. Clerk Treasurer's Office.
All right, the budget meeting for fire and EMS is this Thursday, September 11th at 6:30 p.m. at Fire Hall. Printed copies, you can have them in your email. I have printed copies now, if anyone wants that in advance to make notes. The New York Conference of Mayors, the annual that is happening the week of the 15th through the 18th. I will not be in attendance, so the village office will be open. Deputy Clerk Jess and other will be going to that. Water bills went out this week. And along the other side of the medical billing, and Carter, there was a late in the afternoon email that might want your attention about towns and priority one. So just a heads up that we're doing, my estimate, about 2 hours a week of medical billing. Activity in the village office, which we can handle, but was a little bit, I wasn't anticipating that, and it's consistently been that way, since March. When we really sorted things out, I assume that will probably end, but I don't know, so just as on the addition of work to that. Village offices, and then I will be seeking to complete the annual financial reporting to the Office of the State Comptroller by the end of this month, which is 4 months in advance of when it had ever been done, based on meeting with Dwayne. And again, it's just really reaffirming to have more real-time data. So as we're looking into the next budget season, to feel really comfortable about the 24-25 data. Should make you all sleep better, in case you were worried about it. Does anyone have any questions about the annual financial reporting, what that means? Basically like reporting to the IRS, but not as a municipality, as they come from, like, they used to. So it's satisfying, that's it. That's all I got.
And why are you doing medical billing? What is this in regard to?
So with, Joel was prompted to change the medical billing companies because I
Right.
believe rightly, he thought we could recap more of what we should have, and it seems like rough numbers are indicating that that is the case. However, the transition has been difficult, and so this, and the business office is the intermediary. MedX is no longer processing new claims, so they're sending us all those checks to get.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
priority one, garnering information from them to pay out the town of Ulysses, their disbursements. So we're the middle person.
Don't we have a clerk for that though? Doesn't Joel have a clerk for that?
We just hired someone who will maybe be able to help with some of that. But that person will not have just as.
They won't
If
be
it's-
depositing checks.
If it's
into the-
dollars related, it has to go through Jessica.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, that was my only
That was something
question.
that came up in our comptroller audit 2018.
So the difference, right, so the process before was MedX receives these checks, they process them, they deposit into our bank account, send me the report.
Mhm.
They're no longer processing new claims, and there's been a lag, getting those checks to priority one, presumably that's getting buttoned up. There's also been like, do you have this information, can you do, there just seems to be some back historical work and things that are a little bit. It was, I just didn't know, we didn't know that it was coming down our way. So I just wanted to mention it. And thank my deputy for picking up other things so that I can pay attention to stuff. She's not.
We'll have to keep a closer eye on that. Technically speaking, you are supposed to be the interface with priority one,
That would be great.
not the EMS administrator, because it's money.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing they could do would be scan it and then send me the checks, and then I deposit and do all that, like it wouldn't actually.
So we'll have to evolve into this. We were with MedX since the beginning, so everybody kind of knew what their role was correctly or incorrectly, but this will be a new evolution. As things get. Hopefully, what is this, September?
And my understanding is that we would not be receiving raw checks except for the occasional resident who walks in and wants to pay us directly, which we can do.
Medical billing can have as much as an 18-month run out period. So theoretically, someone billed for an ambulance ride in December of 24.
Can still be
We could see a payment for that in June of 26.
fantastic.
So sometime in 2026, I would hope that everything is now priority one. And then we can hopefully that'll be smooth and
Because the other fun part of that is things you may know and I am now learning. If MedX Tishman WellCare was the primary payer, but then it turns out the VA was the primary payer, I have to then process a pay back to WellCare, but I first have to confirm through the.
rebuild, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
1 to 2 hours, but we're holding strong.
I'm unfortunately well versed in that arena and it's a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So plan.
It's very, they're both fun. I had no problems but I don't know next one priority.
But my hope is that by
2026.
middle of 26, everything will be handled on that side by priority one, so you won't have any of that piece to do. So of income and a report,
Okay, okay,
that's the hope.
okay.
If it's sooner, that would be fantastic.
I'll dig in to the marathon.
But if we're having some somewhat similar conversation in June of 26. Don't know, I'm saying don't be surprised.
Oh,
Don't be shocked if it's Q2 of 26 and you're still getting checks from MedX and like what.
Okay,
It's
Yeah,
okay,
very possible, if not likely.
okay, fair.
Which is
Oh,
why,
we're-
agencies don't change billing companies. willy-nilly.
Yeah, we just had no prep for
It's a
what
big-
was
it's a
coming
big
down the
deal.
pipe for the office. Speaking of things coming down the pipe, if you haven't paid your taxes, your property taxes, pay them. You don't want to get the next percentage tacked on if it goes to the county in October. I'll make a post about that.
So we'll need to re-levy in October? Or is the re-levy in November? It's October.
It's compiled in October, sent by November. They do it in November, but I will verify that. date.
We have to approve the re-levy.
Yeah, got all that tracked and so I wanted to speak about the date. Right, but October 20th, yeah, good.
Okay, anything else?
Mhm.
All right. Old business. Let's do the easy one first. I say easy. I don't know if it's easy. Price for charging stations. Price per
So-
kilowatt hour. What are we talking about here?
I don't know if it's easy.
It is,
First, I want to say thanks to Jess for following up with J-Com and contractor put those in. Trying to sort of nail them down on what's industry standard, what's done around us. Where do we want to fit in, right? I think Marcia said that we really want to be cost neutral. As I recall, we were at least all kind of vaguely nodding in agreement, so that was kind of what I took to be. These are the marching orders, but I also want to have a sense of kind of what exists in the marketplace, right? If we're double what other people are doing, then we might as well have put them in. If we're wildly below, then presumably we will not be cost neutral. So I just looked up because we did not get a lot of information, J-Com, so I just looked up what is around us. So I'm just gonna read these through so you can kind of get a sense. So in Watkins, there are fast chargers that are 47 cents a kilowatt hour. Montreux Falls, 50 cents, Hammondsport, 44 cents, plus $2 a session as a flat fee. Waterloo, 50 cents, Skaneateles, 47 cents. If you go onto the thruway, it goes up, it gets closer to 60. But those I picked because they're sort of smallish, kind of comparable to us. So you can get a general sense. I also just kind of for fun wanted to think through what pricing would look like to be equivalent to gas prices. So basically equating dollars per mile. If you assume 30 miles per gallon in a gas car, $2, you're about $1 per gallon or $10, 10 miles per dollar, excuse me. To get to the same cost per mile for an EV, running at a typical, and it was hard to find out what's typical, honestly, but
Yeah.
assuming 3.5 kilowatt hours per mile. You have to be about 35% or 35 cents per kilowatt hour, which is not a target I think we should be. But I wanted to just to frame kind of where we are. So my recommendation is that we go with 45 cents per kilowatt hour. I think that's right in the middle. I should note that of those chargers that I listed, they are all much higher capacity than this, which means that their costs will be much higher than that. I've described demand charges before, so I won't flog the dead horse or whatever on that one. But basically, because of the design of our chargers, we will be capped at much lower kilowatt usage than these chargers would be. So I expect our cost to be lower.
Which means we can go just under their costs, in my estimation at least, and still hopefully be above our costs. All that said, it was very long and convoluted. My suggestion would be 45 cents a kilowatt hour. And move forward. There will be, I think, whatever we set the price at. I expect some kind of adjustment. Right, we're not gonna hit the target exactly. If you know, I used to work at NYSERDA, right? I reached out to my contacts to sort of say, like, what's the target? And they all just shrug. If you talk to DPS, who approves all of the tariff sheets for NICEC and all of the other utilities, and you say, hey, what can I predict, you know, our demand charges will be? They like do worse than shrug. They just kind of laugh you out of the room. So there really isn't good data, concrete, that we can predict. Not to mention, we have no idea what the
So we just won't know until we run it.
Yep, that's exactly right. So I think the 45 cents is a safe bet. It keeps us low enough that we're just under these costs, but again, because we'll have a lower demand charge, or at least I expect a lower demand charge. I think we're safe in terms of cost. Hopefully we'll be above.
Is there an argument to be made? Because we don't know what the structure is gonna be and we expect to make a change. Is there an argument to be made to start at the higher end and then adjust lower?
I think so. I think that's what this is. Our cost will be substantially lower. So these chargers are like 350 kilowatt hours or kilowatts, right? The charging capacity is triple ours on a single charger at 10 port sites. Their demand charges will be astronomical, like full on factory level pricing. Ours will be much lower, much lower. I will say, just to be fair, like we tried to talk to the expert, the expert shrugged, tried to talk to the next expert, the expert shrugged, which, you know, I've tried to talk to anyone that I can kind of get my hands around it. So I could very well be wrong, but I think I'm hedging in very conservative directions on each of those assumptions.
There's chargers over on South Street. Do you know what they charge?
Those are completely different. So
Okay.
those are level 2 chargers. In order to get like a meaningful charge in terms of distance out of those chargers.
You would have to
for
plug
8
it up all
hours.
night, like you would have to just hook it up overnight.
I mean, I just to mention this data point, the town's chargers are 19 cents a kilowatt hour. With also a foot. But again, that's a level 2, so it's not really comparable.
Yeah.
Level 2 is, I want to say it's like 8 to 10. We're at 60 to 20, depending on whether there's one car or not. And then the fast chargers that are like in Watkins are 350. So we are kind of in the middle ground between the level 2 and the fastest fast chargers.
Who's the 50-cent one? Watkins is 47 cents. Who was the?
Montour is 50. And to be clear, I'm cherry picking these because they felt like towns that were sort of similar,
Yeah.
right? They're not on the freeway, whatever. If you wanted to go towards a higher.
But I would think they would have a higher demand because they have a more dense tourist center, maybe.
I mean, you can kind of parse all of it to some degree if you want. I think it really is.
Because there's a minimum we have to make, right, in order to maintain this, right?
That is the argument that we have accepted.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. That is not technically true. We can charge nothing and that would be fine.
Oh, no, it would not be fine.
That is the argument. That is the argument.
Yeah.
Right, we would survive.
How often will we be getting some type of reporting?
I think it'll be monthly. We have yet to meet with Bill to see how this program works. I imagine, you know, it'll be fairly continuous, right? It's all, you know. The payouts, right? I don't know how often those will be.
So I'd like to know it. I'd like to know that. And then I would think we should see reports no less than quarterly. To see where we stand.
And then we have an option to adjust that.
I think we can adjust it much more frequently.
Yeah, I just,
Like
but
it's,
we won't. I don't think a month will give us a data set that's
No.
useful.
oh, I agree, especially the first month, right?
We're also
Yeah.
going into a winter season.
A quarter might not be enough, but I would like to at least have access to the information quarterly.
Oh, yeah.
We really won't know. We really won't know. I don't think we'll know. anything meaningful for a year.
Mhm.
But if we see the numbers, or, you know, if we see after 2 quarters that we're way high,
Right.
yeah, we'll probably leave it high for summer, see if demand
Mhm.
turns.
I think if we're high, we stay where we are until we have really reliable data. And if we're way low, then that's when we would need to adjust,
I agree.
would be my approach. But no, Jess will be signing into this and we'll be able to see it. I mean, it won't be live. Yeah, we can produce whatever reports we want.
And one question is the factor of this charge, the only the rate, the only way that we can recoup revenue, are we building in maintenance reality for the station? The repairs or whatnot?
So the long term, I mean, there's warranties on these that are taken into account. I don't know, off
Okay,
the top of my head.
this is something to consider in price.
But in the long term, how we establish, right, so. The preface to this conversation, the reason I did it the way I did it is. Marcia had an argument, we all kind of vaguely shrugged in agreement, so we haven't defined that very well. Right, this is really us trying to get a sense of what this looks like. Is where I'm coming from, so no, we
Okay.
have not defined what
That's
cost
what it's
means
sort of
or what. We have not defined that in any concrete way. Nor frankly, do I think that the data exists to allow us to do that, right? Like fast chargers are a relatively recent phenomenon. So I mean, we can definitely stab in the dark. I would certainly say we should be erring on the side of something to kind of reserve in the process, but that is not where we are in terms of the data that we're using. And I think this is a best guess situation, and then we just have to correct as we go.
My understanding is you can like change the rate that day. As
Yes.
soon as you conduct
Yeah,
the
yeah.
study on the side.
It's very, very dynamic, yes.
Yeah.
Which I think is part of why I'm not overly concerned with hitting the nail on the head the first time. Right, we will have the ability to shift this as we. I mean, I think you're right that the more data, right, it's not gonna be reliable until we have. Stabilized it.
But we do want to move forward with seeing if this board will accept a start off rate so that when. NICEAG fires it up, the next
Yeah.
day the bill can come out, we implement the software and they begin.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, that is what I would like to do, so I would like some kind of consensus from this board. Honestly, whatever it is, I mean, 45 cents is my proposal, if we wanna change it. I'm happy to, like I said, I think I'm erring conservatively on all of the assumptions that are baked in there, but. I'm happy to do what it is, it's really just about, like just said, fire them up, see how it goes, right, we wanna.
We won't know till we know.
See how it actually starts to play out.
And as far as maintenance, that comes under the warranty, like if something goes wonky with one of those,
Yeah.
one of those things, listen to me.
But we can look into that, I'm sure it's.
Yes.
Doesn't matter.
I think it sounds fine. I was with where I think Roy was going is like, let's start high and come down rather than start medium and have to like go up. But if the 45, and I understand now that you explained like how we compare to the other ones that were charging 47 to 50. Sounds like it's likely that we'll be below that, so 45 feels like a good throw of a dart, and then we'll adjust, and if we do ever have to go up for whatever reason, it's not the end of the world either.
Yeah. Yep, and I think, I mean, I also, Jess has been kind of after me to get a press release because you get all the questions and I don't get many of the
Mhm.
questions. But I think, once we have a real date on when I said we'll energize these and be operational. I think this piece, this like, hey, this amount will be set and then it will fluctuate as actual costs are established. I think we'll have to be part of that. We want to be upfront, I think, about like, this is not. It's similar to gas prices, right? Like they rebound and they change subject to the
Right.
market. NICEAG is gonna raise their costs, we will have to do the same thing. This is not like the tax rate that's set for a year and then. You know what I mean, we're done. It will be more dynamic than that. So I think that has to be sort of forwarding that conversation a little bit, just so that. People are not expecting something, but
I would say based on what you say, 45 is a good place to start.
probably have a resolution to establish an initial rate.
So, counter proposal. I propose that we designate someone or two people or something to be able to do it on their own. And maybe consult with board or something like that. I'd like to not have to do an emergency, like if we're wrong. I don't want to have to do an emergency board meeting. I would much rather designate you as the person who would say, hey, this is a thing. I mean, to me, this is an administrative decision that would very much be within our capacity. So I'm not against if you feel like that's necessary, against it. But I think for the moment, I'd prefer to keep it dynamic.
So you're saying
we're
if we
open-
put it in a resolution and then we decide to change it, then we have to have a meeting to change it. Yeah, I think it's kind of silly to have to do that, don't you?
Well, I don't know, we might have to.
We
I
might
don't have a
have to.
good handle on what that honestly looks like. That may be. I countered.
Yeah, we can do that.
How often do we change the mulch and dial truck prices, and is that done by resolution?
It was not done by resolution,
Yeah, it wasn't
No.
recently. No.
and that was the first time. 4 years I'd seen the price change.
Yeah, I don't,
Change sewer rates.
and we
Not
have,
rates.
right, and I think we've definitely changed them without resolution. We've certainly done like a discount, sort of like.
This is a utility.
Yeah.
This feels like a kind of question that they don't want to ask.
Well,
Well, in the interim, if you have any, let's do a resolution. And then we can come back and say by resolution.
We don't do a
Designate
resolution.
whoever.
Yeah, at least to set
That's
the
fine.
initial rate.
That's fine. If you had any.
Let's ask Guy about changing, whether because it's electric. It's not
Yes.
our utility. It's a pass through. Water and sewer are a different animal.
To me, this is just a charge for a service in the same way, right? Like
Right.
town recreation would almost be more similar than. Water.
I think it's more like mulch.
Yeah,
But again, you would only change it after like a quarters, right? Or you wanna be more nimble.
unless we're drastically wrong. I mean,
Okay,
I don't think we are. I mean, we're right in the sweet spot and I think we're. Need to be, but
it doesn't seem daunting.
Well,
we just don't know.
let's
I'd like-
establish it and then ask Guy tomorrow.
I think
Right.
that's,
Okay.
I think that's exactly right. I move that we charge 45 cents per kilowatt hour. For our level 3 chargers. And I'm gonna add this, we should talk about it later, and 19 cents per kilowatt hour for our level 2 chargers.
Where was the town?
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Other comments or questions?
Just to add the 19 cents piece, we didn't talk about that, because obviously the real risk here is the demand charges. I think 19 just aligns with, that's easy. They also have a flat per charge, I forget what that is. So we would be slightly less than that, but the same on that charging rate.
Okay, so 45 cents and 19 cents. Any other comments or questions?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Okay. And then Jessica, let us know what Guy says about charging, I can only imagine. Okay, next item of old business is our ongoing discussion, which I think we may have some action items tonight. On the requested zoning change at 14 and 16 Elm Street.
I can take a pass of that conversation.
Mhm.
So in the Dropbox, there is now an updated T-Brick zoning map. With nice new colors. It looks very pretty. I want this now to be. You don't have to prove it just because it looks pretty. But I'm excited for a new zoning map to look like this in the future. I asked County GIS, they couldn't find the old ones, they had to remake it, and that looks nicer. But it does include the 14 and 16 Elm Street properties in the downtown commercial west district. So that's largely the difference there, and we can, in noticing this, probably give people a copy of the old one and the new one, they can kind of see the difference. So that is one part of this, so that's the effective change that we are proposing to then have a public hearing about and then actually hear and then actually decide if we want to do anything about it. In going back and forth with Guy, it wasn't enough just to post a picture and say there's a public hearing. There needed to be words apparently. So we do have a draft local law D4 of 2025, also in the Dropbox. And thank you, Jess, for putting it on our letterhead and formatting it. This is largely boilerplate. But just kind of goes to say the purpose and intent, and I had this focus on what I took away from some of our conversations about the benefit that the village stands to gain from this proposal, should we move forward with it. And the rest of it was kind of boilerplate from any sort of amendment. I kind of copied from a previous amendment we've made for the vehicle and traffic law. And then just called out specifically like the tax parcels and street numbers for the actual change, so. Anyhow, this passed Guy's muster, so this is effectively the law that we would be adopting along with the map. To make this change, so. I think what we do at this point now is, this is now introduced. We're here, we can then discuss if we would like to schedule a public hearing. Make sure that that gets noticed broadly and very specifically, at least to the folks who are adjacent to the property. And then I think we pick it up again at a public hearing unless there's other conversation we want to have tonight.
So you're gonna have to remind me where seeker fits into this process. Normally, we would be doing the seeker review as part of
Right.
the public hearing.
I forgot, Guy did say all that. There's seeker and there is also
39.
county review.
Now, in the past, so I'm thinking when we redid the residential zoning, we did the seeker public hearing piece at the same time as the public hearing on the zoning.
I think we did.
Don't recall if we can do them separately. I think we can, but we normally don't.
I think that seems about right. I think I remember the resolution at the end was like a joint, like accepting, finding no deck in seeker and then accepting the law.
Which we don't do if in the case of the residential zoning, we go back and make changes. Because we did have that one iteration where we took the first public hearings comments and made more changes to the,
Right.
but I think we have to have it already for the public hearing.
Do you remember what
Yeah,
that
just
said?
seeker,
Yeah,
have it ready for the public hearing.
Which is fine, it just means we have to be conscious of.
do
that
we have to
for
go
our
through the
date.
whole, right, we have to go through the whole timeline of like sending out. Like declaring the whole thing, we've done any of those pieces.
Have to declare ourselves lead agency, 30 days to respond.
But you can do that, the public hearing is part of that process. I mean, it's part of this, it's the thing, it doesn't, you can't adopt the law, have completed the secret, but you can have the public,
Right.
which is why you wouldn't talk to this. Are you thinking differently about this October?
I mean, I guess that could, there's kind of two paths about it. One is we could have the public hearing, maybe this is what you're pointing at. We could have the public hearing. To have a public hearing. And then. Listen and make more of a decision, because we're in the spot of being less sure we're looking to move this forward than I think we often are with the law. We could have that public hearing. See what we hear, make a decision if we want to keep moving forward. Worst case, we have to have another public hearing maybe, or we have a separate seeker public hearing. But we would have the final decision would be a finding and an approval together. I think that was the key part of like. The actual approval. I don't know if the two hearings have to be.
You would only need a
Sure.
public hearing for, if there were two. You don't need a public hearing, it's determined side one.
Yeah, that's also a good point. We may not, I think we,
You might need to.
I think
wait
even
30 days for other agencies to.
Right.
get in, okay. But that's why, like, you would.
yeah, I kind of remember that too, even with the residentials. I don't know if we
I don't
necessarily
know if
had to
we
have.
Oh, it's a type 1. Because if we're changing a residential, now they're two parcels, then just the effect on parking. Probably,
Good.
there'd be an argument to be made anyway. That is the type two.
I guess in my mind, I'm trying to optimize to get more information rather than like make the most optimal timeline. I
Trying to do both, so that
I-
we don't have to have 9 of these.
it would be nice. It would be nice.
And I think you are in November, because this board needs to go through the secret process. And if you feel like you might end up with it, you're not sure which determination. Or you schedule it for some,
Right, I think,
and you have people here.
So let's,
right, the options for now is we kind of pause on this and get seeker sorted. We could. I bet you if we worked for a couple of minutes, come together and come up with a resolution for us to just declare ourselves lead agency tonight and move on that. But that at least kind of moves that clock forward. I don't know if that gets. Probably the first thing to move there.
so why don't we do this? Why don't we tentatively schedule, but not notice yet? Public hearing for the local law and zoning map change that was just introduced. For our Veterans Day is the 11th. Is the 10th of November a business day? It always falls on the 11th. There's not that Monday.
Yeah.
So then let's plan but not yet notice November 10th, assuming
Okay.
everyone's gonna be here. For a public hearing on this just introduced local law and map change. I would entertain a motion to declare ourselves as lead agency for the purposes of seeker review of this proposed zoning change.
My only worry is I think we have to do the part 1 first to do that.
To declare lead agency.
I think so, because that's where you describe the project. So I think we have to describe it so that we can tell people we're declaring lead agency.
Okay. And let's. And let's plan on, but not announce. The tentative public hearing on this for December 8th. Which is our regular December meeting.
Okay,
Tomorrow, when you ask Guy about electricity charges. Tell him that we should know this by now, but we need him to itemize. Everything that needs to be done
okay,
in timeline order
okay.
for seeker. Should we end up moving forward with this?
Okay.
And throw county review in there, just so we know where it goes.
And then we'll have to do. We'll have to do part 1 in October.
Yeah,
Send it to the county in October. Gives us 30 days to declare ourselves lead agency in November.
we might be.
In order to do part 2 in December. And collect all public input. And that doesn't mean we have to act on a resolution to adopt it. Well, get the timeline from Guy and ask him about the bits, the parts and pieces that can be done separately.
Yeah, okay,
Because I know we've always done it as one.
Yeah, that we might run into some like if it's actually 30 days and our meetings aren't quite 30 days apart, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then shall I chisel this timeline into the wall next to my desk so we can.
Yeah, that'd be great, because we're gonna keep touching zoning, and I meant to make that like basically go back through my notes from the last time and kind of put that all out,
Little cheat sheet.
Yeah.
basically, and I didn't get there, so that would be great.
You can order one of those custom engraved plaques, set it right on.
Would
desk.
it be dedication or terrifying if I got a tattoo?
Oh, jeez.
Ben would be the one, should get a tattoo. Zoning work he's been doing. All right, yeah, let us know what Guy says.
Okay.
One quick note, can we put proposed on the map?
Yes, and to that end, probably should make the bottom part of the proposed law blanks instead of eyes that are highlighted.
Did not catch that, but I agree.
Right. Make,
That's me, I do that.
yeah, no, I understand that, but if we're gonna put it out to the public, make it as,
That whole certification.
yeah, as painfully obvious as to everybody as possible that like this is an idea that we have. We're not sure if it's good yet. Please come talk to us.
Yeah, none of this.
Yeah.
But you don't want this proposed draft that you're talking about minus my getting excited that I could put a
Until we
certification.
decide, until we have dates,
Okay.
dates and timelines.
Very good. It's still in draft.
Okay, any other items of old business? New business. DPW collective bargaining agreement, we are going to discuss an executive session as soon as we can get there. Cuba salt mine.
Yeah, so this was brought to our attention, just the proximity of the Cargill salt mine to our water wells. They are quite close horizontally from each other. They're not particularly close vertically from each other, but it did give me some pause nonetheless, and I was curious to get somebody who is more versed in these things than certainly myself, to kind of take a look and see if there's concern there, and if so, is there anything to be done about said concern? We had gone back and forth over email about some possibilities. Based on like kind of further conversations, I'm actually more leaning towards the idea of working with our engineering firm to find someone who might be able to at least give us a price for what it would take to look at this and kind of give a sense of like, not a big deal, a very big deal, not a big deal, and a very big deal, and you can't do anything about it. I don't know what our pieces are here, but I think working through our engineering firm to try and help connect us to the right person, guide us through that process to take a look at it. I don't want to spend enormous amounts of money, but having someone take a pass at it would be, or at least get a number first would be nice. So unless there's other questions or concerns, I think maybe we just kind of move with that and say, hey, could you find someone that might be able to talk to us and see how much that would cost? And we can kind of talk about that once we have some more information.
Would it be more on like how we would mitigate if there was an issue? Because I thought I saw a headline that said that their project was already approved by the state.
Right. So like, that's where it's like, is there even anything to be done? I think, where can we go with this? Yeah, right. So the project was approved. I don't know if there's anything really we can do. It might be something to notice if in the future there is yet another approval process or something to line up with. It might be a thing to just generally send over to the DEC and say, hey, just so we're all on the same page, these things are pretty close. That's terrifying. Consider that next time. I don't really know is kind of the thing. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get the mine shut down or get that section even shut down based on this, but it's more a question of understanding if we can quantify some of the risk and seeing if there's opportunities or ways we'd want to inject ourselves in some process in the future around it. So I guess I don't know what I don't know, but I'm just like, would like to know a little more.
I think like you said, though, there is mitigation possibilities if there is, but it's not just about one. Right? There's more advanced.
I mean, hopefully.
Whatever that we could be doing, is there's.
I mean, the reason it was brought to our attention is that there is some regulation on like how close you can mine to a well, and if it turns out that this has been overlooked, that it actually is closer to our well than is allowed, then that would be something to pull on or for us to consider pulling on. Like I just don't know is basically the answer. Yeah,
I think that's great.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, I think it's important for us to know whether it's really a risk or not. And either assuming it is a risk or being skeptical that it's a risk. Is a good way to make a decision either way.
Yeah,
So,
right.
So I think MRB can be helpful. At least sending us in a direction of who can do some research for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a you guys.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Okay, in the Dropbox 8C, so the Ithaca Tompkins Transportation Council. I think I may have mentioned this a few months ago. But CCT has effectively absorbed, in some, I don't know exactly how the structure of the organization works. You might know more than I do actually, but CCT has effectively absorbed Ithaca Car Share and Ithaca Bike Share. And they're trying to build clean mobility nodes around the county. And Trumansburg has been identified as a place where they would like to have a location. And it sounds like there's grant money involved and they're looking for whether we would support the idea or not for them to put a node, it's not a hub, which would include potentially another charging station and a car and some of the e-bikes. And then they maintain it and they come out and charge the car once a day. And it gives an opportunity for people that utilize those services to move about the county. And they particularly like all places we like. They particularly like this parking lot. They particularly like the parking lot across from Gimme Municipal Lot. They really like the farmers market. They also like the school. So they're also trying to coordinate that with TCAT. There's a lot of moving parts to all of this. But this letter is very simply it's in draft form, obviously. They are seeking the village's support in concept for CCT taking grant money should they get the grant. And adding a node here in the village, potentially at the farmer's market. Now I had a conversation the other day, Thursday or Friday. They were aware, but had not realized that our charging stations were going in now. So they're not sure exactly how that's going to fit with what they want to do. But they still want to do something in Trumansburg. So they're asking for our support. This letter is obviously going to have to be rewritten to be from me or from the village. But I wanted to, before, so sometimes I'll write a letter of support of my own, but before that doesn't commit the village to do anything. This would actually be semi-committing the village that if they do get grant money and do come back to the village and say we want to add another charging station at the farmers market, specifically for an Ithaca Car Share vehicle, we would be saying that we would be accepting that, would be amenable to that.
But it's not a commitment. I mean, is it that, I guess my concern is for a village as small as ours, is there really that much of a need for something like that? I'm just surprised that they're,
Don't know.
yeah.
It's
I haven't
not,
seen the good car shoes up here. I just saw one this morning.
Right, but I mean, it's probably somebody that came from Ithaca and needed to
Right.
come here.
So they've identified the need for their services to have a base here. In terms of total electrification, we won't know until we see numbers.
Right,
I mean, there's 1.2 million unique visitors at the Overlook
right.
this year. Some of them are coming here. So I think it's, and you know, we hear this a lot. I think because we're a small, geographically small village, we tend to think like a small village. But there are very few villages in upstate New York that have 1 million visitors a year. And we don't get all of them,
I would love to have more of them come up here.
but we get a significant
Pull 'em up.
significant number of them. And now that the parks have started adding signage. to direct
Yeah,
the
that is
village,
helpful.
And of course, we've got whatever Camp Barton ends up being called.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, gotta look down the road.
But this is separate from all that. This
Yeah.
is,
Mhm.
this is them recognizing, and it's interesting, there's some dynamics and how that coordinates with TCAT and. You know, bus ridership is not increasing. It hasn't ever rebounded, but the car share utilization seems to be stronger, and so there's a lot of.
It was their bus route was not for most working people.
Or predictable.
Or retail.
That's why I stopped riding the bus. So I also met with them to talk about putting a site up for Compass.
That was the other spot.
Yeah. And speaking to need, absolutely unequivocal, huge need. Right? I see my tenants walking down Main Street all the time.
Yeah.
And they're going to Scherzer,
Right.
right? Like they're like the idea that there could be bikes that you could take, e-bikes. I mean, it's,
Didn't we go down the e-bike route before and it ended up being a disaster?
it's not a disaster.
They were all over the freaking town.
That was a private organization and utilization was high. That was the issue. They didn't have enough people to maintain where the bikes sat.
Yeah, but
They also didn't have charging stations here, so they had to truck them
True.
somewhere to charge them.
Yeah, true.
But a lot of that was just that they didn't have their van on site. I mean,
Yeah.
and they had a lot of bikes. But I think it's fabulous. I'm very excited by the possibility. And I was reminded very quickly of flying bikes everywhere, but yeah, I think. Yeah, just seeing the need for the ability is obvious.
And conceptually, I think 100%. I use the Lime bikes. I saw people using them. I see how they're valuable. I mean, even a car. One of the first things when I joined the board was talk to get the car share. Or maybe it was a different name or something at the time, like getting a car out here, and they wouldn't entertain it at the time. But I mean, just looking at my family, we're all sharing like the extra floater car between all the households. Like there's.
So explain to me how that works. I'm just really ignorant about like what the car share is and is it free?
No, I mean, I don't know how they actually run it, but the car shares that I've been aware of in the past, you like rent for the amount of time that you have the car. So you get like an app and the app lets you like walk to the car and press some button, it unlocks the car, you get in, you drive it around, you park it back again, you press the button, you're done and you get charged X dollars an hour that you have the car or something. like that.
Oh, gotcha.
And I said,
Okay.
just that 2 women living in Ithaca who don't have a car, because they live in, use the car share to come get their mom from Juniper Manor to come to me for notary services.
Uh-huh.
Car share. Cool.
I'm hoping. This is way out there, but I'm hoping that New York State will amend some of their VNT laws with respect to e-scooters.
Mm.
Because I used e-scooters in Boise. It was amazing.
It's neat. Yeah.
And they're all radio controlled and they have this commons style area in downtown Boise. And when the e-scooters come into the perimeter, they auto shut off.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
I've seen those
And
in Venus.
there's stands, you gotta park them, you're not allowed to ride e-scooters inside. Then you walk around when you're ready to leave, you jump. I mean, to me, that's a little bit RoboCop, but
Also have the bikes changed, are we still looking at giant heavy line bikes, or are they modified more now?
Those I have to-
Like,
Giant.
They're still pretty big.
That's on
They're electric.
purpose so that people people don't run away with them, basically.
No,
Right.
it's like like you can rent scooters in city, anymore.
Yeah,
They were
Yeah.
fun. I was skeptical.
they move faster than I actually really wanted to.
Yeah, they do go fast.
I was,
Part I liked.
Yeah. they
I
absolutely
feel
do.
like I nearly ended my life at one point.
My son did not. Too fast.
Too fast.
All right, so if there's no objection, then I will, I'll send a letter of support to the folks at CCT. Any other items of new business? Seeing no members of the public present in person or online, we will not have a second public comment period. I would entertain a motion to go into executive session. Any other executive session items that we know of? I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss matters subject to the Taylor law.
So moved.
All in favor?